Hi, thanks for joining us today. I've got Jesse Hudson with me from the Exercise Coach, and we are going to give you some information about our local Dallas-Fort Worth market. You might want to also talk about Oklahoma. I forgot to mention that when we were chatting earlier, Jesse, but Sarah Wasco and I also cover Oklahoma.
Sure.
So for those of you that are used to getting emails from Sarah and I that are in our databases, she handles the Fort Worth side of things. I handle the Dallas side of things. And Jesse's on with me today just to really talk about what's going on with the Exercise Coach in this market and also give us an update on what's happening. So Jesse, without further ado, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be able to talk with you and see your face and talk about Exercise Coach in particular in the Texas and Oklahoma markets.
Okay, so kind of tell us, well, the thing that I didn't mention is not only do you help clients go through this process of validating and researching the Exercise Coach, you also happen to be a consumer in the sense that you're an owner. You and your wife own 2 locations. You're getting ready to open your 3rd location. So you can speak to that as well. And as you can see, Jesse is joining us from Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here in Plano. And the great thing is he helps folks all over the country. And I think you were saying earlier that your support team is also located across the nation. So nothing happens just out of one location. Headquarters is in Chicago, right?
Yeah, headquarters is in Chicago. So Exercise Coach started in Illinois 21 years ago. That's one thing about this brand is that it's 2 decades old. Been franchising for 11 years. Over 100 units open. So there's a lot of history and proof points here. And we have locations from Southern California all the way up to the Northeast, from Texas to Minnesota. So we are fully national. But what Exercise Coach has done, which is unique, is that most of the corporate leadership team and the support team are also franchisees, and they happen to become franchisees first in many cases. So the support managers that are the front-facing support people for the franchisees, all of whom have either been a manager or a franchisee themselves in a location for multiple years. And whenever there's a new position opening up at corporate for support or new trainers to train new franchisees, they offer it to the system first because these are people who've put their time and efforts and money into a location or multiple locations. Mm-hmm. And so that's something unique. So the fact that I'm the developer, I'm the franchise representative, I actually work for Franchise Fastlane, which is a sales organization. But I've been a franchisee for 5 years, and we're opening our 3rd unit up here in the Twin Cities. When I'm talking to your clients, to your candidates about the opportunity, I can mention, here's how we hire, here's how we go from 1 to 2 to 3. Here are some lessons that we've learned as well. So it's not just, let me try to sell you a franchise. It's let me tell you how we're doing it and how other people are doing it. And there's this history of proof point behind the conversation that I think really makes the conversation more comfortable for a lot of my clients, a lot of my candidates.
Agreed. So tell us about what is going on in this market. Why are you and I speaking today? I know there's some great markets available, right?
Yeah, Dallas-Fort Worth is one of those metros that is a franchising hotbed. You know this, having worked for many years in the industry. Because for a number of reasons. Number one, it's obviously a large metro. There's tons of corporate headquarters, new corporations moving to Texas every day. We all know the migration stats to Texas and other places in the South. There's a lot of investment money. Yep. There's a lot of talented professionals who maybe have spent 30 years in their career and now want to do their own thing. So it's a very, very strong market, and it's a great consumer market. There's a lot of consumer dollars being spent. And so really it's one of the top markets for franchising, and Exercise Coach has very strong operators in the market. We have people in the market that have been open for 10 years. We have people in the market that have been open for 6 months and everything in between. So we have good operators in the market that have incredibly strong brand passion, very good brand awareness within their territories, like yours in Plano, close to you. But then we have some phenomenal territories available. We have 6 or 7 top shelf territories still open on both the Dallas and the Fort Worth side of the metro. And so we just wanted to be able to spotlight that with FranNet, because FranNet is local, it's trusted. You and Sarah both live in the markets. You've both been clients of our studios. You know the workout, you know that it's a good brand. And so when the executive team targeted, hey, let's try to make sure that we're able to award those territories in Dallas Fort Worth, I said, well, let me get on with Roxanne and her team down there, because we want you guys to be able to spotlight that to your clients first. So
great. And we appreciate that, because, Sarah and I are boots on the ground. We are local. And I think that's the message that we're trying to get out is, please work with somebody local that's in the market that can be a valuable resource to you with referral partners, not only as you go through this process, but even after you get into business. We are very well networked and pride ourselves in being a good networker and referral source for our clients as much as we can. So tell us about the exercise coach. Why another exercise concept?
Sure.
What's your value proposition?
Sure. Great question. That's the number one question I get from candidates is, oh, so we need more fitness concepts in this world?
Absolutely.
And this, having been an exerciser your whole life and being passionate about it, there's a lot of ways to move. There's a lot of ways to work out. What Exercise Coach identified many years ago, and it still holds very true, the numbers have not changed significantly on this, is that about 80% of the US population say that they would love to work out more and get in better shape, but that there are barriers to that. And the top 4 barriers are they don't have a lot of time, or if they have time, they certainly don't want to spend all of their extra time working out. They'd rather play with their kids or take up a hobby or do something not working out. And that's the second thing, is they don't love to exercise. Exercise is something that about 15% of the population loves to do. It's something that they just resonate with. It's part of their lifestyle. But then 80 to 85% of people don't list exercise as a super enjoyable activity that they look forward to. It's something they know they need to do, but they don't necessarily arrange their life around it. So people are too busy. They don't love to work out. They're getting to the age and the condition where there might be some injuries, some issues, maybe not injuries, but like a sore back, a bad knee. Maybe they aren't comfortable, figuring out how to work out. And so there's just this trepidation. Or they just simply don't love the gym scene. And the gym scene we define as large groups, either in an open gym or a large studio environment with 20 or 30 people in the room with you. If you're not in great shape, or you could be in better shape, and you don't really know what you're doing, the last thing you want to be around is a bunch of people who are in better shape and know what they're doing. And so the fitness industry has put out more and more workouts and programs that resonate with that 15% of people who enjoy it. But they have not really done a very good job engaging the 80 to 85%. And in particular, the aging population, the 40 to 70-year-old demographic, is significantly underrepresented in fitness. And yet they say that they need it the most. When we poll, these aren't just retirees in their 80s. These are the busy professionals, the baby boomers, the older Gen Xers that are still working. They have kids in high school and college. Their calendars are nuts, kind of like yours and mine are, and they don't have a lot of time. There's also not a lot of fitness concepts that are really focused on serving that demographic. And so we've really focused on the 50+ demographic. And then we have this whole cool high-tech 20-minute workout with fancy machines, which we could get into later on in another conversation. But it really is a 20-minute, twice-a-week workout that is catered to people who don't love the gym, who don't love to exercise. And then we put this into a 1,000 to 1,500 square foot space. You can go into an office, medical office, commercial office, or retail location. So you don't need that high-end visible space, which means build outs are lower, rents are lower. And so it's this nice, clean, simple business package aimed at a forgotten demographic that really allows us to stand out. And so we can go into a market. In my area, I live in the southwest suburbs of Minneapolis, St. Paul, which is kind of the North Dallas, North Fort Worth part of Minneapolis. And there's tons of fitness studios everywhere. And I have no trouble getting clients because we're talking to a completely different profile than the spin or the Pilates or the CrossFit. So it's just a different client demographic. We can exist very happily with those people in the same market. And so competition isn't really a challenge for most of our franchisees.
Well, and I'll vouch for that because, on the flip side, I'm always looking for new ways to injure myself because that seems to be how I roll. But my husband and I both were members of our local exercise coach, literally less than a mile from our house here. And he's completely booked the studio that we were going to. And the reason that even though I'm this prolific, I love exercise. And, I I think part of the problem, going back to your 85%, is people haven't found the thing that they like yet. I think if you find the thing that you like, that's the key. Is it shouldn't be a drag, right? So for me, I like high intensity. You know, I love those endorphins. I'm always looking for a way to get those. But the reason I went to the exercise coach was I had gotten sick. I had had several surgeries, and I really needed to kind of like fight my way back. And I wanted to do it without injuring myself because I had been sidelined for a while. So, and my husband is that typical corporate guy who, you know, I think it even got worse with COVID. Like, you know, you sit in meetings enough as it is, but then when you're working from home, it's just like you're constantly on Zoom. And I had this chiropractor that used to say, sitting is the new smoking. And I'm like, honey, you got to get up and walk. So the good news is we would book time to at least get out and walk the dog and get some exercise. But he really wanted to start a routine again. I needed to start over. And the other thing that we loved about it is we did this right in the middle of COVID. So when we went to the studio, he and I were the only two in there with the trainers. And I know you guys used to book your the studio, the way the software was set up, it was in 20-minute increments. But what would happen is the workout was still 20 minutes, but then they would give themselves a 10-minute buffer or a 5-minute buffer to get everything sanitized before the next client came in. So it was a very clean, safe way for us to go and work out. You know, we're you know, in that 50 age range, and certainly neither one of us wanted to get sick, right? But we did want to we did want to exercise. So anyway, we can speak to that. And then Sarah's location, she actually works out with one of the clients that she placed, and hers is full also, and she experiences the same thing there. So you know, we can both vouch for that. So talking about COVID, there's two things I want to talk about, and one of them I'm going to bring up now too, because I don't want to forget to mention it. Is the simplicity and the unit economics. And I'm pretty sure you guys have an item 19. So if you could just really briefly, you know, I don't want to get into all the details, but kind of just talk about the average investment. And if you want to throw some earnings out there, great. But we really just want to keep this high level. We don't want to take too much of anybody's time with this recording because we want you to reach out to us, and we just kind of want to wet your whistle. So, but before we talk about earnings, let's talk about what happened to your locations in 2020. What are you seeing now in 2021? You guys have plugged right along. You're opening another location. So can you just kind of speak to that briefly?
Yeah, and actually both of those questions, the questions of the financials and COVID, we actually, I would like to say Exercise Coach has done an incredibly good thing for investors. They've put all the numbers during 2019 and 2020 in black and white in the FDD. So an FDD,
and the FDD?
Yeah, an FDD is a franchise disclosure document. So when you look at franchises, there's this, as you could imagine, if you've bought a mutual fund, there's a prospectus. If you look at a franchise, there's a document that has a bunch of information. And what we did in our item 19, which is where franchisors can put any sort of earnings claims, revenues, expenses, all that stuff, we actually show people what happened last year in black and white. So usually franchisors will put the previous year's sales numbers and expense numbers, and then every year they update it. So you get last year's data. This year we put 2019 data, which is obviously pre-pandemic.
Right.
And then we put 2020 data as well, but we broke it down by quarter. So we show quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, and quarter four revenues. And what you see is quarter two was way down because we were part of the required shutdowns. There was no fitness business or personal service business that was able to argue their way out of closing during March and April and May in most of the country. But as we started reopening in May and June and July, by the numbers in the FDD, you'll see this incredibly fast bounce back during Q3 and Q4 to where by the end of the year, based on the cohort you're looking at, because we have it broken down with mature stores and newer stores, and we have different segments. But basically the picture is the brand got back to full revenues by the end of last year. That's what you'll see when you look at the numbers. And so for people ask me like, hey, are your businesses getting back to, where they were, pre-shutdown? And I say, well, by the numbers, our system has been back. And that was a really good thing to be able to tell people, especially right now, as, variants come and go. It's not like we're going to have this day that COVID's gone like this. I think we thought that last year. We're going to be contending with this virus that is, somehow a little bit more dangerous than the flu, but not so bad to shut the world down again. And how do you operate a brick and mortar fitness business during that time? Well, we couldn't have gotten luckier. And I'll say it was a little bit of luck that we're not a group facility, that we only need 2 or 3 or 4 people in the room at any given time. One of my locations in the Twin Cities is one of the busier stores in the country. We have a lot of clients. We've been open for many years. And when we reopened, our schedule was pretty much the same with a little bit of buffer. Like you said, we could carve out a few minutes here or there for deep cleaning. We could space things out. We could take the middle of the day and say, hey, for anybody who feels like they're higher risk or has a family member at home that are higher risk, we'll guarantee between these hours that you're the only person in there. If you did that in a 30-person boutique fitness studio concept, you'd be dead, because you can't give an hour to one person or one coach to one person like we possibly can. So our model of one-on-one or small group training, we've always been by appointment only. We've always been one-on-one or small group. It is not a heavy breathing exercise set. It's a 20-minute mostly strength training set. So if you have to wear a mask because the government makes you, or you want to because you feel better, it's not nearly as difficult as if you were doing an hour-long spin class. And so every element about the business model made it much more operatable last year than think of a personal trainer or a physical therapist that just was able to reopen and bring their clients back. That's basically the type of business this is. And so we did not see nearly the same long-term business effects during the summer and fall last year that many of the rest of the fitness industry saw. And I will also say, just anecdotally, in my studios, we saw more people leaving some of those other places and joining us for that reason. We saw people who were more comfortable in a group boutique class or in a Lifetime or an LA Fitness, that were not necessarily that, exercise averse type person that we normally go after, who said, look, I'm going to treat myself to personal training for a while. I'm going to really try this thing out because I'm more comfortable here than, at another location. And so 2021 has continued to build strong as well. We don't have numbers in our documents because we're still in the middle of the year. But if you talk to our franchisees, many of them will tell you that their business has never been better. It's a very strong time right now for the business. And part of the process when you look at a franchise is being able to talk to owners and validate those things. We have 120 plus locations open. So you'll have access. If you go through the process with FranNet, go through the process with me, we'll tell you how to get a hold of those owners and ask them, how are you doing right now? Because we don't want you to just take my word for it or Roxanne's word for it. We want you to take the actual operator's word for it. And so we will give you access to a list of owners that you can ask that question of. But I think what you'll hear is we had a very strong performance last year, stronger than we maybe even thought we would do. And then this year has continued to be strong as well.
Makes sense. And great news to hear that. So average investment. So I like the fact also that you guys have got several different models. You don't necessarily have to go into a traditional strip center, retail that tends to be more expensive. Both Sarah's location and my location are in an office setting. I think next door to where I went, there's a psychologist and there's an accountant. It's one of those, it almost looks like low-rise condos in its offices. And I know a couple of my other clients that are in San Diego before I made the transition to Dallas also went into those types of locations. So can you kind of give us an average investment and we'll wrap up after that.
Sure.
I just want to wet everyone's whistle and have them reach out to us.
Yeah, this is a compared to other fitness businesses, one of the lowest initial investments you'll find. In our FDD, I think it ranges from 130 to 300 some $1,000. There's a range, obviously, in every investment level. The middle of that range would be in the low $200,000 range. So obviously, your choice of real estate, how much your build out is going to make a difference. But you can get one of these locations open for under 200 or a little over $200,000. And that includes everything you need to get the business open. When you look at a franchise, they have to tell you, here's everything you're going to need to spend. It's regulated. So we have to show you. And again, I keep saying we have 100 plus locations open. We've opened 60 stores in the last 2.5 years. So we have a really good idea of exactly where you should go, how much things should cost, what to spend money on, what to avoid spending too much money on to make sure you get that investment. And to your point, we call it the suite model, which is office suite. 2 of my 3 stores are in suite model locations, and I'm in a retail in my 3rd location, or my original one, But when my lease is up, I'm moving into an office building to take advantage of the lower rent. So what we can do that other fitness businesses can't do is go into a quiet professional office, medical office park environment. Because it's low impact, it's a very quiet, easy use. Landlords are comfortable putting us in places where they would not allow other fitness businesses to go in. The benefit of that is lower build out costs typically, and also lower rental costs as well. And it also makes the program feel more professional because we are a more professional exercise program than your traditional gym. So it fits the brand identity as well.
So if someone's watching this and they're concerned about that and thinking, okay, if I'm hidden in this office building somewhere, how are people going to find me?
The revenue numbers in the FDD are exactly the same in the retail studio and the office suite model. The ranges and the averages are basically very, very close to identical. So we do not see that a sign makes somebody sign up for a personal trainer. If you're hiring a trainer, or you're hiring a tutor for your child, or you're hiring a massage therapist to help you with the frozen shoulder, you're not just going to go because you saw a sign next to the grocery store. That's not the way you purchase important professional personal services. You see an ad, you get a mailer, you click on a video, you ask some friends, hey, have you heard of this before? You look up Google and Yelp reviews. People buy more and more digitally, and then they come in and make that transaction. So we have a phenomenal marketing system that drives lead flow to you.
That's what I was looking for.
We do all the marketing for you. So we don't see the brick and mortar sign above the door bringing more clients in necessarily. And so because of that, we say, hey, save money on rent, spend a little more on marketing to drive actual humans to your business. And that's the way to build those locations. And so the one in South Lake and the one in Plano and some others in the Dallas-Fort Worth market are in those type of buildings. And that is, in a lot of ways, our franchisees prefer that location. That is the most popular new location option compared to the retail models. So that's where a lot of people are heading as well.
Lots of great information today, Jesse. Anything else you want our clients to know before we wrap this up?
I would just say, if you are interested in owning a business that's purposeful and meaningful, something you can enjoy and really feel good about, and is a brand that knows what they're doing and has everything dialed in and pretty much proven, give Roxanne, give Sarah a call, talk to FranNet. They're going to help you understand the territory options and get you in touch with me. And I would love to meet you, because we want really good, strong operators coming into the system. And we know that FranNet has some really great contacts. And so happy to be here, and thanks for your time.
Thank you. You know, the one thing we didn't touch on is this model has the potential to be semi-absentee, meaning you don't need to be working in the model.
Correct.
It's designed to hire a manager, and then you manage that manager. So this is one of those types of businesses that you can actually do and keep your job. And that's obviously something that you would verify as you go through and do your due diligence. Once again, not taking my word for it, not taking Jesse's word for it, but validating that with the franchisees that are running their businesses that way. So with that said, if you want any more information, please reach out. Sarah handles the Fort Worth side of things. I handle the Dallas side. We kind of split Oklahoma right now. If you have not taken your entrepreneur profile yet, that would really be the first step. And you can find us at frannet.com. Most of you are going to be in our database, and that's how you're going to get access to this anyway. So thanks for taking the time to watch this. Thank you, Jesse, for taking the time to explain the exercise coach to us. It was great to see you today, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks so much, Roxanne. It was my pleasure.